Hello, welcome back to Win Some Loosemore. It's been a bit of a year. Haven't been around so much. Been very busy finishing masters, but we're back by partly our own desire, but partly by a couple of you getting in touch and asking, "Are we doing it this year? Are we doing it this year?" So my brother Rick is back, and we're going to do our top 50. It's probably been at least as busy a year for you as me doing masters.
Oh yeah, well I've also finished the masters.
Yeah.
So studying away.
But we've both now finished.
Yeah,
which is great. And so we're going to do our top 50 just for capacity's sake. And I've approached it slightly differently yet again. I've added kind of the third thing that you've always talked about. If you watch our previous ones, Rick talks a lot about what comes off the shelf. And I think I've factored that in a bit more this year. So it's my favorite games, balanced with how good a game they actually are, balanced with the types of people that I'm playing with at the moment, which is less often and typically newer gamers. What am I most likely to go to? What am I gravitating towards? What do I want them to experience? What do I want to experience myself that I enjoy? What's coming off more frequently than other things? So there's been a bit of quite a few big shifts in some of the placements. I don't know.
It's not the only rule, is it? Because a lot of my games that are on my list I don't own, and actually not all the games I own have made the top 50. So you think, well, surely all of the games you own must be your favorite ones, and they must be higher than the ones that you don't own. Well, that's not always true. There are lots of games that I really, really like, but that just have no place in my collection for one reason or another. My wife doesn't get on with them. We don't like the art style. Or, they're just too big, or I don't have the audience for them. All sorts of reasons. But then there are also those that my wife and I broadly have rules that are like, if there's a game that neither of us just don't like, or one of us just always wins, because that's never fun either. Like, she always beats me at Carcassonne, so that's never going to be in our collection.
Sure.
But there are 2 or 3 in my top 10 that I go, yeah, but I really like this, so it's going to stay regardless. And so it is a helpful model of what's in your cupboard probably is going to end up higher on the list because it's the stuff that you want to play.
I've just checked. There are 7 in my top 50 that I've never owned.
Ooh,
and I think
never owned is a big list.
I think 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games I have at some point owned, but no longer.
You're gonna have me. Yeah, it's probably similar. I can't do it as quick as that, but it's probably not a dissimilar number actually for me. So
I've color coded my list.
Fine. I've just got what I own and what I don't. That's about as color coded as I get. It's called bold.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so preamble. Number 50. What have you got?
What have I got? Number 50 is a rise from 58. So, and we should probably say we both totted it up. We both reckon we've got about 7, 8 new games in the list.
I think I'll have to
check
and tell you next
climbers.
Time. Yeah,
but about 25% new compared to last year's 50.
Yeah.
And so when you say that something was 58 last year and something's 50 this year, actually that's quite a good climb.
Yeah.
But if something was 50 last year and 58 last year, that's probably about the same place given the new games. But this is a climber, and it's Targi, which I know will turn up later on your list. And this is would you call it a worker placement? Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
But, it's in Cosmos's 2-player only line, and I really like a lot of their stuff. And this is one we did own, but we didn't keep because it's just a little bit abstract. But it's got that mechanism that I really like, where you point at stuff and get stuff. And it's probably in my mind because at Christmas I'm hoping that I'm going to get a game like that called Meadow. And I'm looking forward to having a game like that in my collection again, because I don't have one. And so maybe it's just that sort of sentimental feeling of it. It's a great sort of worker placement game. It's really crunchy. It's very even, very level compared to actually another game I'll talk about a little bit later. It's just straight up and down Euro. Yeah. And it's just too abstract for our house, but a really good fun.
And if, depending on when this video comes out, it's $12.99 in TK Maxx right now.
Yes, unbelievable value. Yeah.
They've got some good things. Okay, my number 50 has climbed 50 places.
Whoa.
Was previously number 100. And this kind of typifies the, what is it I'm pulling off the shelf? So this is Spirits of the Forest. A very simple, just set collection tile drafting thing that's, 2 to 4 players really, but it has a solo mode. And if I am thinking, I've got the itch, I just want to play something, but I've only got like 10, 15 minutes. I don't really want to think too much about it. I just pull this off. It comes off my shelf so much for what it is. It's nothing amazing. That's why it's 50. But I was just looking at it going, this deserves to be in my top 50 because it's one of my most regularly thought of and played games. You know, you might argue it should even be higher, but I've put it lower because it's not an astounding game necessarily, but it's just such an easy activity just to pull off. It's the type of solo that I like with abstracts, that my choice is also then determines the opponents. I don't have to do a fake person's turn because it's in a grid. Whatever I take from one side, they automatically get the thing on the opposite end. So I'm not just trying to do my own thing. I have to keep in mind the tension the whole time, which just works really well for me. So I'm not doing points necessarily in the same way at the end. It's not beat your score kind of thing. It's just a very simple little abstract puzzle that I just seem to really like. So it warranted being here in Spirits of the Forest, number 50.
Well, my number 49 is another 2-player only game. And this was not intentional. This has actually climbed from number 80.
Okay.
Which is quite a big climb. But actually, you and I were talking before this video about actually the 50 to 40 box is actually really hard, because this is one of those games that if I was doing a top 100 and it came out at 80, I'd be like, yeah, that's probably fine because it deserves to be in my top 100. It felt last year that it wasn't in my 80. That seems really, really low. I want it to be in my top 50 games of all time because I really like it. This is Hive, which is,
sure.
It's like chess. But without a board. You sort of build a board as you go along. You create a hive. It's about insects, and it's a fairly abstract theme. The pieces are chunky and lovely and waterproof, and you can take them to the beach. Kids can spit on them and poo on them, and you're fine. They probably can put them in their mouths because they're so big, and they won't do them any harm.
Do not try this at home.
Absolutely not. But easy, charming game, and one of those again. You say, "Oh, you like chess? Hey, you'll like this." And this is you've played this, haven't you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I like chess. So each, so you've got a bee, you've got an ant, you've got a spider, which is not like chess, believe me, as beetle, but each one of those has a different move set.
Yes.
So the spider can only move 3 spaces. The bee can only move 1 space. And you're like, oh, that's like the knight. That's like the king. And it's that same sort of idea. And you're trying to encapsulate the other person's queen in a 6-hex hive. And I'm sure you'll have seen this around. But it's a great little game. I really like it. Hive 49.
My number 49, according to my data here, has never been on the list. 2 years ago, it was because I've only played it digitally. And then last year, I think it just didn't make the cut to 50 when I did include digital ones. This is a Nyrim. And again, a solo game that so this is the Spirits of the Forest for my phone. If I'm sat bored for 30 seconds even, to 5 minutes, I can just pull out an Nyrim on my phone. I've played over 1,000 games of it by now. I feel like I spoke about it last time. It must have been on there and I've just missed it somehow. But it's 49 now. I can't tell you whether it's gone up or down. Just a super simple, almost like a solitaire hearts kind of game where you're trying to get unlock doors in your dreams. It's a bizarre theme with a bizarre aesthetic, but on the phone it works really well. Loads of shuffling involved if you're doing it in person. So I always just stick to using the phone for it. But again, it's here. It warranted being on the list because it's just something I pull out so often. And it just works for me. I know it's not for everybody, but a Nyrim or Nirim, I don't know how you say it, but number 49, super easy.
Well, having done two-player games that I no longer own, I'm about to do 2 multiplayer games that I do own. And the first of these is King of Tokyo. And this is one that, again, you can pull off the shelf with most people because it has what we would call a Yahtzee mechanic. You roll a number of dice and you like, well, I want those dice, but I don't want those dice. And then I roll them again and I roll them again. And after 3 dice, you're stuck with what you've got. And it's very simple and everyone can do it. And they're big chunky dice and everyone likes throwing them around. I'm just at the stage where I'm bringing my 6-year-old into, she can't play all the rules, but she can play a bit of it. And the theme is that you are gigantosaurs and megalodons and you know Kojira type monsters attacking Tokyo, and you want to be the one that's most dominant. So you're trying to score points, you're trying to swipe at each other, you're trying to heal. You can't do that if there's this king of the hill mechanic. And the kids, I'd not shown it to them before, and they were just like, "Oh, this is amazing! We want to play with this now." And I'm like, "You're too small, 3-year-old, but you 6-year-old, I can see how you'd like this." And yeah, and I've just played it at parties. I've played it with all sorts of people, and you can just play it, and it's fun, and it doesn't last too long. King of Tokyo, 48.
My 48, conversely, is one I've never owned, and have only played once. And won. Sucks to be you. 48 is Ark Nova.
Did you win?
Of course I won, don't be silly. I got monkeys.
Oh, yeah, monkeys.
I can only imagine you'll talk about this later. I would be almost upset if you didn't, because it is really good. So it, again, warrants to be here. But I've only played it the once. I don't have a full sense of the scope of it, and I've not brought myself to buy it, even though it's come down in price a little bit now. Like it's just really good. It's really thinky. It's I don't know what you'd even call it. There's a little tile laying area where you're physically building up your zoo.
It's a real mix.
Is it set collection?
Yeah, the set collection. It's tableau building. It's there's a little bit of worker placement in there. There's a little bit of tile placement, as you say. It is one of those actually where you look at it and go, this is a hodgepodge of mechanics and this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But when you play it, none of them seem to stand out as an awkward family member. And we haven't even talked about the 5 cards.
No. So the central mechanism is one that we both now love and know exists in other games, but haven't really seen it in the same way. I love an action selection system as if you've seen my videos, you well know action selection is one of my favorite things to explore. And you've just got 5 actions that are represented by 5 cards in a row of 1, 2, 5. And almost like a river mechanic, every time you choose an action, you take that card, you push all the others after it up and put it at the back. But then which number slot you took it from is how strong or how many times, depending on the action, that action becomes, which is just a fascinating puzzle, because you might want to do something twice in a row, but you only got a 4 times of it one time, but then it goes back into number 1. And so you're like, well, I don't want to do it yet. I want to wait and do other stuff so it gets higher and higher. So it's just this incredible tension of just this super simple mechanism. And there's, you know, within the game, the opportunity to flip those cards to make them better versions of the action as well, get bonusy stuff. But it works for me with that element, but also, you know, mid-game goals that you can score as you go, end game goals, as well as just the fun physical nature of building something up. It's just got lots of things. It has a theme. It works, but it is a Euro. It's like, it's mechanisms. It's loads of mechanisms, but because of the theme, they tie together really well. I don't feel like I am building a zoo, but everything makes sense because of I'm building a zoo.
I find that really interesting, because this is probably one of the weightiest games on it's certainly one of the ones on my shelf, but also probably one of the weightiest games you or I play, because we don't go in for your super heavies.
Yeah.
And I've played this with lots of people now, and some of them who I would probably say are your sort of 2 is probably their weight. They're ticket to riders, you know, that's fine. And they go, yeah, I didn't win that, but I really enjoyed that because I wanted more monkeys, because I wanted more of this, and because actually they did get into the story, and it's one of the few Euros that has that merge as well as it does, and it really did run the risk of just being a hodgepodge of mechanics. But all of it just fit. Yeah. And yes, I probably will talk about it later.
So my 48, then Ark Nova. 47, what you got?
47 is the point where Deet's going to roll his eyes because it's a multiplayer game that I've owned for a very long time. In fact, it's the oldest game in my collection and is the lowest of former number one that I own. It
Beans.
is Bonanza.
Garbage.
Bonanza. Let's be honest. If I played this today, this would get nowhere near my 50 because I'd be like, this artwork's horrible. Trading is polarizing.
Yeah.
It can take a very long time. There's all sorts of stuff in there and there's some really cool mechanics, don't get me wrong, like not changing the order and you might be stuck with the beans. It's a bean trading game and planting game and harvesting game. It's an Uwe Rosenberg, can you believe it? But not one of his grandiose, cavernas or agricolas, but it is very much an Uwe Rosenberg. I like farming, don't you know? And I love it. And I do like trading. I'm someone who's good at trading and I battered Deet and Monopoly all the way through our childhood.
Yeah.
So it suits me in that kind of way. Do you know, I played it the other day at a friend's house and they had an expansion and I've never bothered to expand it, and I think I'm right. But they had the expansion, but they also had not taken out the cards that it replaced. And it just didn't work. It didn't work because you had way too many of this type of bean, and you sit there and go, this is why Bonanza's great, because Uwe has sat there with a pen and pencil and paper and scribbled out probabilities and values, and it's just clean and flipping horrible to look at. Horrible German bean cartoons, but it's a great game and I really like it and I've got a lot of nostalgia for it. So yeah, probably shouldn't be here, but it is. It's great. You hate it.
I've played it enough times to know it's not for me. I think that's a polite way of saying it.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's one that's for me. It's not one that's for you.
Yeah. My number 47 is down 8 places, but that just means I've probably got 7 or 8 new things in here. So it's a similar kind of number. This is Dice Masters, kind of across the genre board. I've got Marvel, I've got DC. I won't get Ninja Turtles or D&D or Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Dice Masters is a super simple kind of head-to-head battle game using bag building, so like a deck building game, but it's dice. So you can purchase your specific character dice, having started out with some generic ones to attack, to trigger powers. So for me, I don't like deck construction typically because I'm not good at it, but this is just a lot of fun of going, oh, what if I put these characters together? And I've got another one of those probably in another list that I'll talk about then, but it just works for me, and dice chucking just has its place. It really does. Like I'm typically quite a Euro-y, moving things around and manipulating, and cards, I'm big on cards. So dice I tend to overlook a bit, but there's just a time and a place where you just want to chuck some dice and see what happens and go ha or oh no, because that's just the way it went. You could have built the perfect team and have bought all the right dice at the right time, and it just doesn't come out for you. And that's fun sometimes. And I think in this instance, it is. And I know it's not your kind of game, but it's been on your list before because...
Yeah, it's my number 99.
Oh, fair.
Which, and again, for me, that's remarkably high because I would never, I'd never play. I have played. I don't like one-to-one card play,
dueling games,
all that sort of stuff. I mean, Keyforge, which is the highest of those, I haven't even looked, but it's way down the list. So I'm never going to play anything. But like you say, with the dice element, with the sort of nice thematic ties, I could play that. It's fine.
So it just works for me. It's it's hanging around it was 39 last time, but that 40 to 50 range is kind of where it lives for me now. Dice Masters.
Big climb for me from 93, something like that. 93 to 46, Voyages of Marco Polo.
Oh, okay.
Have you played this?
I have not.
You'd really like this.
Right.
Yeah. It's just one of those, when I was putting my list together, I was like, I'd really love to play that again. I haven't played that in ages. I played it with some friends at a board game cafe. I've since moved cities, and so I don't go to that board game cafe anymore. And it's just one that's really good. It's boring artwork, boring theme. I mean, Marco Polo actually having a bit of character to it is a bit more interesting than your normal trading in the Mediterranean or the Middle East, or because it's that sort of game. You're trading camels and gold and whatever. But you'd like it because it's dice worker placement. You'd like it because it's resource management. You'd like it because it's a Euro, okay? And it's a good one. But I don't know if it's one of the first or one of the earliest, but it's the thing that really makes it are the player powers. And I know actually at the moment in game design, there's kind of a swing against asymmetry. There's a swing against player powers because people are like, oh, I don't like being funneled down a direction. I don't like being told that's how I have to play. I want to have a blank sheet, Feast of Odin, and I can just like do whatever I want of the 64 different options available to me. And I'm like, if you can play that, good luck to you, sir. But this has variable player powers, asymmetry, up the wazoo. It's unbelievable. It's one of those games where you sit and go, you can't have that power because that's way too strong. You'll break the game. But then everyone else is saying the same about you. It's not one of those like, I don't know, something like Pandemic where you go, oh, but you get this slight benefit to being that scientist and it's probably better if you're that sort of person. It's like, no, you've broken the game because you're so good at that thing.
Yeah.
And I could see why people would take against that because they're like, but I don't want to do that thing. I want to be a camel collector, thanks. I don't want to be a gold merchant and feel restricted by it. But for me, I really enjoy that sort of thing.
Cool. My 46 is a drop of 14 places, and I have a hazard to guess that this is going to end up being my kind of bonanza type thing, where it just hangs around because it's not a former number one or anything.
Oh no.
This is Carcassonne the City.
Okay.
And 14 places is enough to go, yes, this has dropped. And this has not hit the table in a couple of years. And I think about it and go, yeah. And then I remember the walls and the Brillo pieces, and I'm just like, oh, it's really charming. It's really cool. When you have finished the game and you've got the wall around it and the towers and the normal kind of Carcassonne community map thing that you're building, it's really satisfying. But I don't know how often I'm going to keep pulling it out. So I don't know how long it's going to last. But I do thoroughly enjoy it, but it's just not one that keeps coming to mind anymore. So it has slipped a bit. It's my favorite Carcassonne that I've played, Carcassonne the City. 46, previously 32.
Yeah, I still like to play that, not tried it. Okay, number 45, down from 39, so basically the same, Camel Up. A silly gambling game. It's not a racing game, it's a gambling game. You've got to remember that, about camels that are climbing up on top of one another as they race, and you're trying to influence and bet on the right outcome. And I've just played this with hundreds of people and played probably hundreds is not an exaggeration. Because it's a high player count. We've got an expansion which takes it to 10 player. Kids can play it. It's silly fun. Everyone gets involved, shouting at you. Come on, Blue Camel. Why are you so slow? You like this, don't you?
Yeah.
And in one of those games that I'm like, this is never going to work for me. This is going to be stupid. And I like it. It's dropped a lot, and not this year. It's kind of stayed the same. It's been supplanted in my sort of, we've got 6 people around. What shall we play? Some other ones are going to come up a little bit later, but it's still a knockout. Still great fun. Camel Up.
My number 45 is a drop of 20 places, and I fear this one will keep dropping as well because I've just sold it. Glenmore 2 Chronicles.
Yeah.
I love the gameplay of this so much. It's really good. I like the sort of rondelle thing. I love the mechanism of whoever's at the back, it's their turn.
Yes, I love that.
I even enjoy the city building tile lane. I really enjoyed that. And I don't like economic markets like you do, but I enjoyed this one because it made sense. Everything about this works for me. But as a product, it's massive and expensive, which is, the production is worth it. My goodness, it is. But it comes with like 8 module expansion things.
How many did you play in the whole
time?
None.
In about 10 plays of the game, maybe 8 or 9 plays of the game, I never touched them because I enjoyed the base game, and it just felt silly having it to only use half of it. And I even backed on Kickstarter the expansion because it came with the solo mode and stuff and even more modules, and they don't fit inside the original box because the insert's great and is very exact. And I just never pulled it out because there were other solo things like Spirits of the Forest, if I wanted a quick thing, or other ones I'll talk about another time, that if I want a bit more of a satisfying longer term game, it just never became the game for me that I wanted it to. But it's great. So it is here. It is 45, but it was 25.
Yeah. And for me, it was 135.
Yeah.
It just didn't do it for me. And I really thought it would, but it was too tile laying and not enough economic.
Sure.
As we'd see, is more my taste that way around. Okay, my number 44, and I'm going to scroll up from 135 now because I had to find that thing because it was way down. Oh, my number 44 is a new entry, sort of. Last year, I brought a new entry of Cathedral, if you remember, an abstract strategy that I sort of like, I haven't played this in ages. And then well, Dee, do you want to get the prop that's behind you?
Oh. Unplanned entirely. This is currently $14.99 if you can find it in TK Maxx. It turned up on Board Game Geek and I was like, oh my goodness, Reef, I'd totally forgotten about that game. We've done this for 3 years on the spin. I played it longer ago than that, and it wasn't in my list because I just had forgotten that I'd played it. Now, don't let me say that that's because I didn't enjoy it. It's just because I was looking forward to buying the second edition. It hadn't been out, and it didn't, and slipped and And I was like, $14.99. Don't tell her, but this is in my wife's stocking for Christmas. Because I really like Reef. I really enjoyed playing it whenever I played it a few years ago. Yeah. It's a simple card draft, and you get to put out some Reef tokens, which are just colored. They could be cubes, but they're not. They're colored tokens. Oh, hello, here he is. Props. I just needed a game in the background because it's not a real board game YouTube video unless there's a board game in the background. Oh, wow, sorry about that. I have them here, brightly colored, different shaped for color blindness. Works really well. Yeah, you put them out for a turn and then you score for a turn. That's it. It's Emerson Matsuchi, so it's kind of simple to play and crunchy to think, and I really like it. And I was like, oh, flip. I had to the nth hour suddenly change my whole list because I was like, oh, I want to get Reef in there because I like that game and I now own it. There you go, Reef. My number 44 is another sort of new entry. Again, I've only played it once and it's in your collection. I've put that I've never owned it, but I helped fund it initially. This was kind of in the 80s when it first went in. Well, when we did the 100, it sat outside. Then last year it moved up, I think somewhere in the 80s because it just gets stuck in my head. And I've still not played it since, and it's jumped up even higher now to 44. This is War of the Ring. We're talking about we don't really play overly big, heavy games. My goodness. Yeah. This is an exception to that rule. Partly because we nerds. And Tolkien in general is something we enjoy and you study fastidiously.
I'd like to deny it.
Oh, what have you done this year? Well, I've read the entire works of Tolkien. Oh, screw you.
I did, and same again the following year.
Yeah, quite. So it's just a world we know, and it's a world I enjoy being immersed in. And I lost and made a stupid mistake, and that's okay, because it can be a 3-4 hour game if you're learning and stuff. So it's a big old undertaking. But the thing I think you mentioned last time that is really what has stuck in my head is not the troops on the map bit, is not the tactical strategic kind of which stronghold do I go for at any given moment. It's, from my perspective, the card play, but specifically how you are generating, almost your own narrative within the bounds of narrative that exists because the cards have been written based on the world and the story that happens. you are generating kind of this, oh, and then this happens, oh, and then this happens, just by playing a card that gives you, you know, an action of some description or gives you a bonus of some description. They're not exciting cards, and yet playing one feels like a moment. And I know that's really pretentious to say, but it just does. And so this game, it's what, over a year and a half ago since we played. And it just gets stuck in my brain and has climbed and climbed and climbed, because it's very good. It is, but it's just, I want to explore it. I want to look at it. I want to try. I don't even want to try the other asymmetric side. I want to dive deeper into the shadow. That's who I played as, and I want to get good at that and explore that and figure it out and see how I can thwart the fellowship in this way. Like, it's just got in my brain. So it's gone up. It's number 44. It's War of the Ring.
Excellent. I'm delighted. My number 43 also is a little bit thanks to TK Maxx. This is a game that I've owned twice now, and it's currently on my shelf in shrink wrap because I found it for £5 in TK Maxx, which was an absolute steal. Saboteur. I'm not much for social deduction. That sort of stuff really doesn't do a lot for me. But this is social deduction with a game attached almost. You're trying to hunt your dwarves, hunting for, and not Lord of the Rings dwarves, you know, little gnomey ones, and you're hunting for gold.
Snow White.
Yeah, that kind of dwarves, yeah. And you're digging tunnels by playing cards that are kind of like tiles effectively, and trying to get to the gold, and but in the mix there is a saboteur who tries to score gold, not by getting to the gold, but by stopping other people doing it. And so there's a little bit of social deduction in, like, have you put that terrible path card to the gold because you had nothing good in your hand, or you put that in there because you're a saboteur? And so but then there's ways you can stop each other, but you don't want to stop someone who's not a saboteur because you're actually all working together, and you've got this sort of semi-cooperative thing. It's really easy to play. It's really simple. I mean, it's the far opposite end to War of the Ring almost, in terms of weighting. And it's just fun. We gave away our old copy, and that's not because I didn't like it. It's actually because someone had spilled wine on the one place where the gold was. And so I knew every time it's there, because there's multiple options you could go to. Well, it's that one, so I'm not going to go there anymore. So I gave it away to someone who didn't know that was the giveaway. But then, yeah, I found it in TK Maxx for £5, and some friends of ours up here actually have got it, and they've been playing, and I went, that's fun. It's a fun game. I like it. Saboteur.
It is. My 43.
It's a fun game.
My 43 has gone up 22 places. It was 65 before. And it's kind of not its own fault. Another game has forced it to go up, which is unusual. Number 43 is Fantasy Realms.
Okay.
I really enjoy Fantasy Realms. I always have.
Yes.
It's been in and out of the top 50. It was 65. And then I bought Red Rising. And I really enjoy Red Rising. But when I want to introduce that mechanism to people, or that style of game, I'll take Fantasy Realms because it's much more portable, and go, oh, this is much better. You know, I'm a Stonemaier fanboy. I'm never ashamed of such a thing. And I will, you know, barring some exceptions, probably get every new product that they make just because I like to. And so it's a really good game. And they said it's based on Fantasy Realms. I already had Fantasy Realms, knew I liked it, bought Red Rising. It's good. And I'll keep it for a bit because the production's pretty good. It has its quirks, but I like it, and the art's great. But it's just made me think even more of Fantasy Realms. Because if I like Red Rising and I like Fantasy Realms more, then I must really like Fantasy Realms. And so it's just kind of pushed it up, and it's the one I've gone to more than Red Rising itself. So Fantasy Realms for me is now number 43.
Well, I'm not a Stonemaier fanboy. Red Rising is 130, but I do have a new Stonemaier game on my list at number 42. Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest. Have you
Really?
forgot? Yeah. Why?
I didn't think you liked this at all.
I liked it a lot.
Wow, your face needs to catch up with what you think.
No, I did. I liked it a lot. My issue with Libertalia was not so much that I didn't enjoy it, and we'll talk a little bit about why I enjoy it in a minute. But it was more to do with, does this have a place in my collection?
Sure.
Because Libertalia it's not social deduction, is it? It's
No.
but everyone has the same deck of cards, but they're going to play them in different orders, and they're going to do different things, and they're going to chain in different ways. And card play is very much your sort of thing. And they've added this board in the new version of Windsor Gale Crest. I haven't played the original. I mean, it had boards before, but a little bit more, and then some, Starburst tokens, and it's all very nice. Are they Starburst now, or are they Opal Fruits? I forget which way around it went.
Starburst now.
Yeah, fine. It's fairly rudimentary. My issue with it was a little bit, if it wouldn't be as easy to pull out. I think it's a little bit harder to understand it's not Saboteur. If we say that's
Sure.
Introduce people to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it also didn't quite have the crunch for me just to own for my own sake. If I'm just playing a game with me and my wife. But no, I think it's fun. Sorry, I didn't realize that I'd given you the impression I didn't like it.
It's my 93.
Wow.
So it's in the top 100, but
yeah.
Again, fanboy. Yeah, I was just really surprised because on the run-up, you were like, I don't think this is going to be a game for me because you have to think people, but not in a strategic way. It's just the second guessing. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it would be social deduction, but it's not.
I think it worked for us because we played at 3.
Yeah.
I think that for our style of game, that's probably a good place for it because it can go up higher, but it would just be very chaotic. I play it sometimes solo. It works fine. And I think 2-player would be okay. But I think 3, maybe 4 at a push is kind of its peak. So if I had that opportunity, yeah, I'd pull it out. And I've got metal coins. Sure. I'm always surprised when things just show up on your list that at the time you're like, so I'm just always shocked.
But if anyone ever watched you listening to music, they'd think you hated everything.
Oh, do not let me be. I was a drama teacher, and I'm the worst audience member ever. I would just. That's about all my reaction that you'll get because I'm critiquing it, I'm breaking it down. Yeah. A game that requires very little critique. My number 42, down 6, but that's about the same. Sushi Go brackets
Yay!
Party/roll. I've grouped them all together, even though roll is the least of them. Sushi Go is amazing fun, super cute, pick and pass drafting of anthropomorphized sushi, sort of. They have faces, right. Weird. But it's just a basic set collection game. But I'm so cute. They're terrifyingly cute. It's just a pick and pass set collection game that's just a lot of fun. The party version, about twice the price of the original, but about 4 times the content. You get to kind of choose what the basic deck is constructed of, so what type of set collection that you go for each game. There are set menus, which I think is fun. So you go, if you don't want to have to think about deck construction, just try these combinations. Great, wonderful. You're playing it 2, try this combination. Great, wonderful. And then Sushi Roll does a very similar thing, but with dice instead. And it's good fun. Has a funnier name. And I would even suggest at 2 and 3 probably edges out the original Sushi Go, but Sushi Go Party is kind of the peak of this series. It's great. It's always on my list.
Do you own this now?
No, I used to.
Fine. I've owned it really twice. This is really interesting. So both are 42s.
Yes.
The other person owns it, and it's higher on our list.
Fine.
Because for me,
it dropped for you.
Sushi Go Party is 61. It's actually climbed a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I don't know whether it's overplay or I just don't get it out or whatever. Yeah. But, how interesting that I like Libertalia more than you, and you like Sushi Go more than me. So there you go. Maybe we should swap games. But no, we won't. And we won't. And the reason for that is that Libertalia wouldn't come out of my cupboard. Sushi Go does a lot. So isn't that, just goes to show, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, 41, last one on the list. Bit of a casualty, I'm afraid. Down 16 places.
Oh, wait, that's nothing.
And I am... I'd almost think about getting rid of it. It's currently out on loan and I don't miss it. But I live near the North Sea and I can't quite not keep Raiders of the North Sea.
Okay, that is a casualty.
I told you.
Bordering travesty.
Let's not get this wrong. It's in my top 50 games of all time. I really like it. It's really fun. It's a worker placement game with a twist on worker placement. You put a worker down and you pull a worker off. You do two actions and you want them to work together. And that whole central conceit is really interesting and fun. And then you build up a team and you go out raiding Vikings into the North Sea and, destroy my hometown and, rape and pillage. There's no rape, but there's pillaging and there's, bloodshed and there's Vikings and I've got all the expansions and it feels a little bit like it's on rails sometimes. It feels a little bit sort of, this is only going to go the same. I'm not excited by it. I haven't got it out recently. There are other worker placement games that are higher because I'm like, actually, I kind of want to play that. Maybe at 2, at 4. Where is it? I really like this, but I could see it falling further. 41, Raiders and North Sea.
My number 41 is down 27 places.
Ooh, another casualty.
And you've owned twice. I've owned once.
No.
I don't know if you still own it. Possibly you do, because it now comes with little hats. My number 41 is Great Western Trail.
Ooh, that is a casualty. Wow.
Fantastic game. And I even had the expansion within one play of the original game. And it's so good. But it's a teach. My goodness, is it a teach. After the teach, you're done. Like it's just there. It does all make sense. But it is an undertaking for the first time for somebody. And particularly as I'm more around people that don't play games. It's not one I'm looking to get, even with the swanky new design. And it looks a bit, it's certainly the cover is unquestionably better. And little hats for your cowboy meeples, wonderful. But there are just other things that I would pull out quicker. So that is our top 40, top 50 to 40, sorry, the first of these. And we'll be back with the next installment. Are there any big surprises in the next one? No, I don't think so. It's all much of a muchness for me.
No, I don't think.
One big up, one relatively big down, but
a couple of newbies. Yeah, a couple of talking points.
Only one new. But yeah, so we will see you for 40 to 31, right? Cool. Maths, or just counting. It's not even maths, is it? It's just basic schooling. I've been Dieter. He's been Rick, whichever side he is. And for Win Some, Loosemore, I'm not saying the too loose thing. I've not liked it for 2 years, so I'll probably have to keep it. Loose.
Too loose for 2 years.
Toodaloo.